Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Inside the Birds pregame show for Eagles and the Bears. It's Adam Caplan and Greg Cosell. Greg, good to see you.
Adam, it's got a big game coming up.
I know, I know.
Eagles, Bears. Eagles coming off a loss. Haven't said that very often this year.
No, and the Bears have won four straight, 8 out of 9. Not what I was expecting from the Chicago Bears because you don't know about a rookie head coach, Ben Johnson.
Sure.
You're talking to people who work with him. He coaches his players hard and coaches his coaches hard, but they're doing a great job. So let's get right to it. Greg, overall, just a general thought on the Bears tape this season, offensive defense. Just how they look to you on tape.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, everybody's probably more interested in the offense with Caleb Williams. He had
Sure,
to learn a brand
sure.
new system, a system that is not easy to learn, that has a lot of elements to it. Um, it's funny because one of the things that Caleb Williams really struggled with as a rookie, and this often is the case with quarterbacks that come from college, obviously, that's where they come from, is they're not used to huddling at them. And people
Yeah.
don't think about that element of quarterback play, what we often call the operational part of playing quarterback, where they have to get the play from the sideline, get in the huddle, speak it with conviction, speak it not too fast, but not too slow, then get up to the line with a good amount of time left on the play clock because in a Ben Johnson offense, often there's two or three potential plays within that play call. Then there's motions, there's shifts, there's the quarterback having the ability to see what the defense looks like. So the operational part of the position is something that Caleb Williams really struggled with a year ago. And even the early part of this season, you could tell that he was still working through that. And now it's clearly much, much better. So once I don't want to say he has it down because he's only the first year in the system, but now that he's gotten better at it, you can see that the offense is starting to take shape the way a Ben Johnson offense looks, which is a lot of those intermediate digs in breaking routes. It's a really good pass game, a really good pass game.
And the big thing is, and you talk about the transition from year one to year two. It's the cool thing for him is he's understanding about timing, and Ben Johnson helps
Yep.
him because he took a number of sacks last season. But think about it: Drew Dalman knew, Joe Tooney knew, came over in the Chiefs trade. Jonah Jackson knew. Well, that helps. I mean, they addressed their issues on the interior of the offensive line, and now defensively, and we're going to go in depth on the offense. Just defensively, Dennis Allen, Eagles have faced him before. What are your thoughts on the
Sure.
defense overall?
But just for one very, very quick point about what
Sure.
you said, and I'm glad you said it.
Okay.
Caleb Williams has not been sacked a ton this year at all. He's only been sacked 17 times. And that I always believe that's on the quarterback more than the offensive line. I know I've heard Tom Brady talk about that doing games, that he thinks sacks are 99% on the quarterback. And that's something that everybody was concerned about when he came out of USC. And obviously last year he was the most sacked quarterback in the league. So to me, of all, if people want to look at stats, Adam, to me, that is the most impressive stat when you look at Caleb Williams, the fact that he's only been sacked 17 times. So anyway, just to get to the defense, they've had a
Sure.
lot of injuries, as you know.
I know.
Now, Dennis
Linebacker.
Allen, yeah, Dennis Allen, everybody knows what he does. He's very difficult at times because of not only the pressure concepts, but sort of how he gets to specific zone concepts where he takes people that are on the first level and brings them back to the second and third level. He does a lot of things that can make it difficult for a quarterback to immediately see. And in this league that if it takes half a beat, that can be too long. So
Yeah.
so he's really good at that. But you mentioned the injuries. I mean, they ended up playing last week at linebacker, Jackson, and I, I'd love to be able to pronounce his name correctly, but I can't.
Yes, I got it.
Agban Beniga, I guess it is.
You got it.
Um,
And then Abang Bamiga. Yes, good
yeah,
job.
and
Yeah,
and
actually, you
you
got it.
know,
Good job. Yeah,
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 and they ended up. It's funny because I remember doing him coming out of college, and I thought he was a really good prospect. But
yeah.
so
For the
and they've been
Chargers.
injured because Kyler Gordon has not been able to play in the slot. So even on the outside, I mean, last week they started. Nashawn Wright's actually played pretty well. I did him as well coming out of college too. I could look at my notes, if you want. But
We'll get to that.
Stevenson
Yeah.
started last week. He got hurt, and then they had to bring in McLeod, a guy who's been with the Giants. He's been around the league. He's really not a guy you want to play on the outside, but they've been able to sort of, bandage this up and not have a bad defense by any stretch of the imagination. It's not been a bad defense.
No, not at all. And speaking of that, let's get started. We're going to break this one down. Eagles O versus Chicago D. We're going to do it old school style. So Dennis Allen and his defense, number one in the National Football League with 24 turnovers recorded, 16 picks, 8 fumble
Yep.
recoveries. They're also plus 16 overall. You mentioned it, Caleb Williams not turning it over. They only have 8 turnovers overall.
Yes.
Let's talk about it. Dennis Allen's D, what's it look like schematically? What could the Eagles expect to look at in this game?
Well, you know what? I'd like to address it a little differently if I could.
Sure,
Um,
any way you
because
want.
to me, what this game is about, is about the Eagles and as more so than the Bears. Now, I'm not saying that they're not studying the Bears defense. I don't want to make it seem like the Bears defense is irrelevant.
Mhm.
But to me, where the Eagles stand right now offensively is they've got to figure out in their mind what they do well and what they can do against any defense. Okay, now look, Dennis Allen, he likes to play man. Okay, Dennis Allen has always played a lot of two-man coverage on third down, which is he might not do that this week because of the Jalen Hurts potential scrambling factor. But he's been a big proponent of playing kind of two man or one robber. It's almost very difficult to tell the difference at times. Now, the Eagles normally don't throw the ball a lot in the middle of the field, so that may not be something you see a lot of this week. That's very possible. But uh, I think the Eagles, and granted, it's a short week, so there's not a lot of practice time on the field, but you don't need the practice time on the field at this point of the season. I think the Eagles, and I say this totally honestly, I think they need almost to go back to the drawing board and figure out in their mind what it is they do well, both in the run game and the pass game, and they need to do that. And again, I'm not suggesting that means they'll be successful, but as you know, every team has staples. Every team
Mhm.
has things they believe that they can do well against any defense. I mean, I've had these conversations with coaches, you've probably had them as well, where they say, hey, this is, when we get stuck, we're going to run these concepts and these plays. And to me, the Eagles right now, look, the run game has been really a problem this year. I mean, when you look at Barkley's
Poor, to be
numbers,
honest with you. Poor.
it's poor. And we can sit here and say why, and we know why. The O line has not been good at all. And it's easy to say that's the reason, but they still have games to play. So
Yep.
it's not like, we're looking ahead to next year and saying, gee, they have to address the O line. They have a game to play, and they're still, in a situation where they can have home playoff games, So, they've got to find out now, go back and say, okay, here's what we do. Because the Bears have a good front, but it's not a front that you can't beat with the run game. It's solid.
Mhm.
But and obviously the linebacker situation, they're playing with backups. So, they've got to be able to decide, hey, here's what we're going to do. And now it's just a matter of what formation or personnel package you do it out of. But
Sure.
let's do what we think we do really well, and let's come out and do it.
Well, here's the thing. Now, you say this. Now, we have to mention that right now, as you and I speak, the wind looks like it could be like the Detroit game. I know forecasts can change. We hope it would, but
Right.
here's the problem. If it's windy and it's tough to throw, we know both quarterbacks have strong arms. The Eagles don't have last year's run game. Now, they threw the ball
I
pretty
know.
well. As a matter of fact, I wonder what would have happened if they didn't shoot themselves in the foot with so many darn penalties in the second half, which crushed
And
drives.
well, and also the turnovers, which they normally do not do.
Sure, sure. But the bottom line is you said, as you set it up, okay, what do they do well? They don't run it well. They have no identity. You'd love to know by who you are as,
Well,
as a football team, and they just don't know what they are right at this point offensively.
the reason they don't have an identity is because they're not doing what their identity is well. I mean,
Running the
they do have
football,
an identity.
yes.
They do have an identity. They're a running football
They
team.
try, but
They're
they
just
don't do it very well. Yeah.
they're not doing it well. So that, it's I always make an analogy, not always, at times in baseball where, if you have bad starting pitching and you're down 6-0, in every game in the fourth inning, it looks like you have a really bad team, you know. But the Eagles do have an identity. They're a running football team. They just have not run well. And they're not, one could argue, and I think it's a valid thing to say, that their pass game is not at a strong enough level. And it wasn't even a year ago where that
No,
can be the foundation of their offense.
that I
So
would
if
agree
they
with.
don't
Yeah.
run it well, they kind of get stuck.
So looking at the Bears defense, right? You got Booker, who's the kid who was on Hard Knocks a couple years ago, who's out of Kansas, I believe. Um, the
Yeah,
edge rusher.
Yeah.
Yeah. Montez Sweat, the Eagles know very well. Andrew Billings has been around a long time, and Dexter.
Yep.
So as you
Dexter's
said,
a good player.
it
Yeah.
they're a fine front, but they're nothing like you're worried about. And then at
No.
linebacker, DeMarco Jackson, who had to start, he was claimed off waivers from the Saints. Hippolyte, who had to start, fourth rounder, and we'll get into him in a second. He's got a shoulder injury, not looking good for him. So they could literally be down their top four linebackers this week, Jeff. I mean, Greg.
Correct. Well, that's why I mentioned that they're going to
Yeah.
probably end up playing Jackson and Bamiga. I mean, and that's who their linebackers are going to be. Now, the position that's played really, really well for them has been safety with Brisker and Byard. That's played really, and they played some big nickel last week with Gardner Johnson being the third safety.
Who
So
has three sacks, by the way.
yeah,
Crazy.
so I mean, it's my guess is they'll do that, because it makes sense for them to do that because they don't have a third linebacker. They don't really they don't really have a they almost can't line up in a true 4-3 because they may not have enough linebackers that they feel good about.
You wonder if I mean, I wasn't thinking a five-man front, but you just wonder what they would be able to do. And again, we're going to see the conditions be able to pass. But the thing is, though, this could be a Dallas Goddard game in terms of, okay, if these guys are down, and Goddard had two plays called back last week. So this could be a Goddard game with all these linebackers that we'll have to see what happens.
Yeah. So, I mean, look, obviously you're preparing to play the Bears. I understand that. And I didn't mean it to sound like, hey, don't do anything to attack the Bears. But at some point, you work all season, all off season through OTAs, through mini camp, through training camp, and you have certain staples that you feel very good about, foundations of your offense. Okay. Like Ben Johnson, and we'll get to this in a sec. Like
Yep.
Ben Johnson, we know that he's going to run dig routes. He's going to do that against anybody. It doesn't matter who they're playing. He's going
Sure.
to get to dig routes somehow, some way. So, the Eagles coaching staff has to believe, every coaching staff believes this, that here's what we do well. Here's what we've been practicing going back to March or April. You know what? We need to do these things. These are the things that ideally the quarterback feels good about, the O-line feels good about, the backs feel good about. And these are things that we have to be able to do. So the issue becomes, how do you do them? Then it comes down to personnel, formations, because concepts are concepts. You have to, you get to them differently. But I'm very curious to see how they come out in this game because, again,
I agree.
you mentioned the weather. Who
Yep.
knows, whether that's truly a factor or not.
Mhm.
But it's funny how every week we talk about the pass game. Look, last week they actually threw the ball a lot and they had meaningful success throwing it.
Yep. Yep.
They still couldn't run it all. Barkley was 10
At
for
all.
22, and the run game looks really bad.
Hey, it's Jeff Mosher. And if you have a family and kids at home like me, you always want them to be fully protected. That's why I'm thrilled to be a Simply Safe customer. And our house is equipped with the most technologically advanced alarm system you can get. If you could actually stop someone from breaking into your home before they got inside, why wouldn't you? Traditional security systems only react after a break-in. But Simply Safe is different because it stops crimes before they happen with Active Guard outdoor protection. Their AI-powered cameras detect threats while they're still outside your home, and they alert real security agents. These agents take action while the intruder is still outside and confront the intruder to let them know they're being watched on camera and police is on the way. And that's how you stop a crime before it's committed. There's no long-term contracts or hidden fees. You can cancel anytime, and it comes with a 60-day money-back guarantee. Try it and see the difference for yourself. Do not miss out on Simply Safe's biggest sale of the year, 60% off. Our listeners get 60% off a Simply Safe home security system at simplysafe.com/bird. That's simplysafe.com/bird. Hey, I still like a good night out, but I'm not always in the mood to drink, and that's why I looked for a great alternative, and I found one. It's called Soul's Out of Office Gummies. You get the same light, happy buzz, but you don't have the hangover. There's no sugar, and you don't get that awkward feeling the next morning. They help me unwind and ease into my evening without the alcohol or the next day fog. Soul is a wellness brand that believes feeling good should be fun and easy. Soul specializes in delicious hemp-derived THC and CBD products designed to boost your mood and help you unwind. Their best-selling out-of-office gummies were designed to provide a mild, relaxing buzz, boost your mood, and enhance your creativity and relaxation. With 5 different strengths, you can tailor the dose to fit your vibe. From a gentle 1.5 milligram microdose to their newest 15 milligram gummy for a more elevated experience. They've also got a variety of products specifically designed to help you get a better night's rest, including Soul's top selling sleep gummy, a fan favorite for deep restorative sleep. So bring on the good vibes and treat yourself to Soul today. Right now, Soul is offering our audience 30% off your entire order. So go to getsoul.com and use the code BIRDS, BIRDS. That's getsoul.com, promo code BIRDS for 30% off.
Yeah, and Greg, physically, you just have to wonder. I know a lot of these guys aren't on the injury report, other than Lane Johnson Dickerson's expected to play with his knee injury, but
Right.
you've pointed out, we've asked you point blank, and you said they're missing blocks. They physically, and then
Yeah.
the note that you had on Mailata on Inside the Tape when we did the offense, there were 13 plays that were helping Mailata out, huh? Was it
Yeah.
13? That's
13.
hard. And he, by the way, he's not on the injury report, so clearly they're not happy with his performance, because why would they do that?
Right.
And their pass pro was not good last week. Let's put it this way: it was inconsistent. There were obviously some good snaps,
Right.
some not so good snaps, but the run blocking, Greg, is hard to believe. This is the stat. I was doing some research on kind of what do the numbers look like. Barkley's on pace for 1,057 yards, which is almost 1,000 yards
Which is
less
crazy.
last season.
Yeah.
I can't believe that, but it's true. And again, you look at what the Eagles are trying to do. They want to be a run first team. They want to have that mentality. But when you can't do it, you got to do something. It's either you run it or you pass it. I'm with you. I'm very interested to see if the weather holds up. Because not only at linebacker, you mentioned Tyreek Stevenson. Now he's got an injury. Nahshon Wright has a minor hip injury. They don't seem to be overly concerned about it, but they've got a number of injuries in the second. Now Kyler Gordon's real close, by the way. And so is Jalen Johnson. I want to mention that this is his 3rd week back. He's got a very good chance to play in this game, so that could help them. So
yeah.
And they could at times be stingy. I know Flacco got it done against them. I get that. But that was then. This is now, and this is a defense which is generally pretty good. And we'll see what happens, Greg. But I'm like you. I'm fascinated to see what their approach is in this game. That to me is the number one story for the Eagles offense. What is your approach going to be?
Yeah, I mean, don't forget the only game Barkley had a big game. He had the 65-yard touchdown on the second play of the game, and that changes the whole worldview of the game. But for the most part, they've not been able to run the ball at all, and they're a running team. I mean, that's the bottom line. They're, they're not, even with the talent that they have at the receiver position with Smith, Brown, Goddard. They're, like I said, we've had this conversation so many times about last year that Jalen Hurts and the pass game threw for less than 200 yards in 8 or 9 games. They're even last year winning the Super Bowl. They're not really a passing team.
Correct. Overall, yes. Oh, but I do want to ask you this question before we reverse fields here. Tank Bigsby, I know it's been limited time, and the fans keep asking us when they're going to give him more carries. Obviously, he needs to get the ball more, but Barkley's the guy. What does Tank Bigsby in a limited time look like to you on tape so far?
Well, I go back to when I did him coming out of Auburn. I liked Tank Bigsby a lot. I thought he was a feature back in the NFL. And when he got an opportunity in Jacksonville, he showed that. And again, I don't know what happened in Jacksonville. Can't speak to that. But it's interesting that when he comes in the game, he gains yards. Now, I'm not sitting here suggesting, and it's not going to happen, that he's going to take plays away from. It's not as if Bigsby's going to be the feature back in this game against the Bears. That's not going to happen. But it's interesting that when he gets in the game, it seems like he breaks, a 9, 10, 12, 13 yarder. And Barkley doesn't do any of that. So it's no knock on Barkley. It's just one of those weird, fluky things that does that mean it's blocked better for him? Obviously it is blocked better on that play or two that he's in. I mean, even the game they had the big running numbers, 270 some odd yards, Bigsby, and they won that game big. Barkley obviously had big numbers, but Bigsby also ran for over 100 yards in that game.
Greg, the thing that I like, his style is so different from Barkley. He does try to tend to bounce it outside, but his wiggle and his vision, it's he's such a good what we call a change up. To me,
Yes.
he should be getting until Barkley, and if he does it all, gets back to somewhat normal. Why not give him 8 to 10 carries a game? And that's just you're trying to do what you thought you could do best is run the football. Try something else, and they need to do that. That's
Yeah, I
something that
mean,
needs to happen.
that's the other issue. Is like I said, it comes down to the use of personnel, formations. You can still run your basic concepts out of so many different looks. And I think that's probably where they are. Look, for all we know, they're going to try some gimmick plays, and that's fine. But that's not what you're going to live over the
Yeah,
next 6, 7 weeks on.
correct.
So you've got to get back to, and they're trying, believe me, they're trying, they just have not been able to run the ball.
All right, let's flip the script as Sal Powell loves to say. I love that, by the way, on the NFL Metric
Yeah,
Show
yeah, yeah.
from ESPN. I love what his phrases. I love that one. That's a good one. All right, let's do it. So it's Caleb Williams. You said this when we did Inside the Tape. You said, guys, I don't want to give it away. I'll just give you a little bit. All right, Eagles defense, Caleb Williams, Vic Fangio. Let's get into it. Let's start with Caleb Williams and Ben Johnson. What are your thoughts on his tape so far?
Yeah, I think Williams has shown improvement as the year has progressed. The biggest issue that he has is he still flashes bouts of poor ball placement that must be cleaned up.
Okay.
And that it stands out a lot on intermediate throws, sort of the staple foundation of their pass game. And that's one reason why his completion percentage is below 60%. But he's getting much, much better at playing with timing, with rhythm, with structure, knowing where to go with the football. This past week, he was not running out of the pocket. He had the one really bad play when he obviously fumbled. It was just one of those reckless, stupid, undisciplined plays, but he
Mhm.
hasn't done as much of that lately. Now, will he do that every once in a while where he just plays fast in the pocket, loses clarity, and he moves with no sort of calculation or purpose? Yeah, he'll do that every once in a while, but he's been doing that less and less. So therefore, he's playing with more control and more calculation. And he just has a ridiculous arm. I mean, the ball comes out about as well as a ball can come out, and he throws the ball exceedingly well on the move. So when he does move, you really have to stay in your coverage, whether it's man or zone. You have to understand, what that means. That I don't know how that's taught in Vic's system. How if you're playing zone, what you do when the quarterback leaves the pocket, but you have to make sure that you have a plan for that because he can really drive the ball down the field on the move.
Ben Johnson said earlier this week one of the areas he's improved is throwing over the middle because they actually
That's
the media talked about it because they noticed it. Obviously, if you're covering the team, you
yeah,
notice it, and it's not easy. We have to remember what he was kind of quarterback he was at USC, and then you had one offense last year. Now you have another one. And Ben Johnson, look, Ben Johnson is a guy he coaches hard, and he seemed to be beaming. I actually watched the press conference because he's he's starting to get what being asked to do, which is a good thing.
well, Ben Johnson is even though the offensive scheme is totally different, he's a lot like Kyle Shanahan in that here's the system. You're going to execute it the way it's meant to be executed. This is what we do. And if you do it right, it's going to work. And, again, I don't know Caleb Williams at all.
Sure.
But it's clear to me just from watching the tape that he's beginning to get a much better feel and understanding of what that involves, because ultimately, look, Ben Johnson just came from Detroit. And I'm not looking to compare Goff and Williams. That's not my point at all.
Mhm.
But if you notice, Jared Goff, who can't move at all like Williams, and by the way, Williams' movement is a factor. He can scramble as well.
Mhm.
But Goff, who's pretty much a pure pocket quarterback, executed that system at a really high level. So the goal with Williams is you don't want to tell him never to move. You never want to tell a quarterback that has that kind of ability never to move.
Sure.
But the whole point is to execute the system because let the system work for you. Trust the process. Let the system work. Don't chase things that aren't there. Let it work because you know what? It works and it has a strong track record of working at a very high level.
You made me think of what Steve Young said because he was a wild child when they got him from
Oh
Tampa
yeah.
Bay, the Niners, and he talked about he didn't trust the system early on, and once he did, you know, I, Do you have you seen that video when I think it was Steve Young threw it blindfolded?
Just so you know,
Right.
I've had this conversation with Steve Young because I
And
know
there you
Steve
go.
Young.
Right, right, right.
Yeah, he
And
told me
it,
that once he understood the system
yeah.
and how to make the throws, he says I could have made these throws blindfolded.
Well, he actually did, I think,
Absolutely.
in a practice. Yeah, I think they actually
Yeah,
did
yeah,
fun with
yeah,
it. It's incredible.
yeah.
By the way, Ben
So I mean,
Johnson went to West Coast.
yeah, that's that's ultimately the idea. That's
Sure.
why these guys work so hard to put
Yep.
in their system and work it and work it and work it and work it. And this my sense is that Caleb's starting to get it. And I'm not surprised that it would take time. I mean, this is brand new. He still won't know everything in 1 year, but obviously they're winning games, right? You said they won 8 of their last 9, right?
Yes, they've won 4 in a row and 8 other last night. Correct. Yeah,
I
they're
mean,
wow.
I don't think that was on anybody's bingo card before the season.
No, them and the Patriots, but that's another story for another time.
Yeah.
So,
So,
and,
I mean,
and you look at the personnel, and here's what Ryan Poles, GM, has done a good job of helping their offense in terms of personnel. Rome Odunze, the first round pick, we'll get to him in a minute. DJ Moore, that was a really good trade with Carolina. Luther Burden, I know you like him. We'll get to him in a second. Lamine Sakias, who the Eagles know, obviously. Then if
right.
they want to play 12 with Komet and Loveland, who's coming on.
Yeah.
So
I mean,
talk. Let's talk about their
let's
pass
get to
coverage.
those. Let's get to the receivers because they do
Let's go to
certain
the
things.
go to those guys.
First of all,
Yep.
we'll start with Burden. Burden is
Mhm.
starting to get more snaps, and they're starting to really use him because Burden you can use him in the screen game. He's terrific run after catch. He's a 3-level dimension with his speed. He's ultimately going to take snaps away from Zacchaeus. He's just better.
Sure.
But
Right.
Loveland is so critical here because Loveland is almost a combination tight end wide receiver. There have been plays over the last 3-4 weeks where they've essentially deployed him as a wide receiver and expected him to win against corners, and he has. So he
Mhm.
is really kind of a wild card in their pass offense. He's really like, for instance, he's a smoother, more fluid athlete than Tyler Warren. Now, I'm not comparing them and saying, oh, one's better than the other, but
Yeah.
he just moves like a big wide receiver.
And Cole Kmet is what they call an athletic Y because he's a big dude. And you look at this group, Greg, and let's get to DJ Moore, who's a good. Well, look, this guy's been a
Yeah.
very good football player. This is because if they want to go 11, they're going to want to go 12. We know, and we'll talk about the Eagles' injuries on defense in a minute. To me, if the weather holds up, this could be very challenging for the Eagles.
Yeah. And their O line, last week, Ozzie Trapillo, the second round
Yes.
pick from BC, made his first start and he played well. And I assume he'll still play left tackle again this week. I don't know what the injury is to the other kid, Benedet or Benedette. Um,
Benedette, yes, yes.
yeah, Benedette, who's from Canada, by the way.
Quad, he should
But
be available. So I got to think based on what Ben Johnson, another one he beamed about because you mentioned it as his first NFL start and they moved the football. He played pretty well. So yeah, I mean
playing well.
they drafted him
I
to be a
really liked
starter.
him coming out too. I thought he could be an
Oh, you
NFL
loved
starter.
him. In fact,
Yeah,
when we did our
yeah.
off-season stuff for the draft, you go, there's a kid I want to talk about at Boston College, and you go, Ozzie Trapilo, Ozzie Trapilo. So I was like, okay,
Right.
go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I liked him a lot. And he played well this week. So I don't know who the left tackle will be if Benedette's okay, but Benedette's been okay too. I mean, it's not like he's been a weakness or a weak link on the line. But as you said, they shored up the interior of that old line big time. It's just an offense. And by the way, they've run the ball pretty well with both Swift and Menange. I mean, it's not like they don't have a run game. So um, this is a pretty complete offense. And I feel like I've watched every week, of course, because, I get asked about Caleb Williams,
Yeah.
more than I get asked about my wife and kids, so,
Really? Okay.
yeah, yeah. So the point I'm making is that, I feel like this offense is moving in the right direction and sort of, and again, it's not a matter of numbers. You know how I do my work. I'm not looking just at a number on a sheet to
Sure.
decide whether it's good or bad. I'm looking at the tape and I feel like they're just moving in the right direction in terms of the execution of a Ben Johnson offense.
Hey, Philly fans, game day is stressful enough. Parking, traffic, long lines. We've all been there. But when it comes to your cannabis, Camden Apothecary makes it easy. This is the dispensary for sports fans, just minutes outside of Philly with plenty of free parking. You'll be in and out fast, no hassle, no waiting. And they don't just care about convenience. Camden Apothecary is all about the guest experience. Their staff makes sure you feel taken care of every time you walk in. Plus, they carry only the best quality cannabis at the fairest prices. So whether you're stocking up for the tailgate, the watch party, or celebrating a big win, you know you're getting the good stuff without overpaying. They even show love to the community with specials for fans, students, service members, and healthcare pros. Camden Apothecary, top quality cannabis, great prices, and an experience made for Philly fans 21 and up. Hey, one thing that always scares me is the latest financial scam. And with the holidays, it's all about finding the perfect gift. But this time of the year, not every deal is actually what it seems. You've got these scammers getting more creative to trick people into sharing their payment info through methods like fake shopping sites and giveaways. You know they're too good to be true. Luckily, Cash App's 24/7 fraud monitoring helps detect and alert for unusual card activity should someone gain access to your card. So you can act fast if something seems off. You can also lock or unlock your Cash App card instantly right in the app for extra control and peace of mind. Stay one step ahead of these scammers this season. Keep your money secure with Cash App. For a limited time only, new Cash App customers can use our exclusive code to earn some additional cash. For real, just download Cash App, use our exclusive referral code, SECURE10 in your profile, send $5 to a friend within 14 days, and you'll get $10 dropped right into your account. Terms apply. That's money. That's Cash App. Cash App is a financial services platform, not a bank. Banking services provided by Cash App's bank partners. Prepaid debit cards issued by Sutton Bank. Member FDIC. Promotions provided by Cash App, a Block Incorporated brand. Visit cash.app/legal/podcast for full disclosures.
Right, and again, they've such a deep personnel group in terms of pass targets to help Williams out. And
Yeah.
and look, here's another thing, because Ryan Poles, he addressed that their line was bad last season. The interior's new. You've got Tooney obviously in the trade from Kansas City. Jonah Jackson, who by the way, he had an eye injury. He's fine. He's going to play. He's their right guard. And Drew Dahlman, who's, he's a highly paid center. He came over from Atlanta. You might remember out of Stanford, who was drafted in 2021. They've completely, Greg, redone the interior offensive line.
I did him coming out. By the way, I thought, who I thought was pretty similar to Dahlman when I'm going back to when guys came out. Okay. That's all I'm talking about.
Early? I mean, when they were drafted, you mean?
When they were drafted.
Yeah.
I think that Kendall on the Eagles is very similar to Dahlman when they came out.
Drew Kendall like Dahlman?
Yeah.
Wow, that's actually a compliment. Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, don't forget, Dahlman was like a 4th or 5th round pick. It wasn't
Fourth
like
out of Stanford, right?
Yeah.
Fourth. Okay, but he's been a starter, so okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I don't remember. It's funny because we talked about Kendall after the draft, and we didn't ask you for a comp. Wow, how about that? How about you pulling that one out? Interesting.
Yeah.
Monangai, but he beat Roshan Johnson's an IR, but he took Monangai out of Rutgers, a 7th rounder. That he's been. Greg, give us a little bit of, because we're going to see him, because especially if it's windy, he might have to play a lot. What do you think of Kyle Monangai's style of play?
Physical, competitive, urgent downhill, gets hard yards, not a breakaway threat, and I mean, unless a runway opens up, but,
Sure,
just a hard runner that, keeps you on schedule. That's the kind of back he is. Fits well with Swift, because Swift is, has a little more juice, obviously. But the Monangai, I mean, he had that game a few weeks ago where he had 176 yards, and he ran hard.
Yeah. I couldn't believe it, because he was a 7th round pick and not known to be explosive. Yeah. So we gave you the defensive injuries for Chicago. Offensively, they're in actually pretty good shape. Now, we do want to mention, we'll finish the matchups in a second, but I do want to mention the one concern is Devontae Smith. They added illness for him on Wednesday. He didn't work in their.
I saw.
Yeah, they had a light practice on Wednesday, but that's the one that's concerning, because now he got hit hard in that game, shoulder, chest, and now an illness. So it's something to keep an eye on as we go forward. But Greg, this Bears team has been one of those. I just didn't see it. You've got a rookie head coach, Ben Johnson. It's looked really good. We talk about the defensive injuries, but I just, because you've always talked about this, Jaws would talk about it. Coaches coach coaches. Fangio surprised me a little bit. Like, he blitzed not a lot, but he blitzed more than we thought he would. And now you don't know from game to game what he's going to do. What should be Vic's approach against this press target group?
Look, I'm not going to presume that I'm smart like Vic Fangio, believe me. But the foundation of what they do, or one foundation, not the only foundation, is they really work the intermediate between the numbers in the pass game. Okay. Anywhere from, let's say, 15 to 22 yards. Those are staple concepts. It's just how they get to them. They get to them in different ways. but you have to somehow take those away. They can't be clean throws. That was what was so, if you're a Steelers fan, that's what was so disappointing last week, because it just seemed like those voids were so big last week, and that it was just pitch and catch a lot of the time for Caleb Williams. And he even missed a few that he should have hit. But that's where they like to attack in the pass game. And don't forget, Sidney Brown's going to play opposite
We're going to
Blankenship.
get to that in a minute. Yeah, we're going to get that in a minute.
Yeah,
The
you
personnel
know,
changes. So yeah, yeah.
and I think, I don't know how in his mind he's going to try to compensate for the fact that Sidney Brown is not a great pass defender. So believe me, I wish I had a great answer for you, Adam. I don't, because I'm not Vic Fangio and I'm not as smart as he is, but he's going to have to do some things to camouflage the fact that Brown is just not a great pass defender.
I know that they're not going to do it. Sidney Brown to me is more of a fourth safety, third at best. It's a shame because the way that I heard it, before he tore his ACL, he really started to get the defense. It was the 23 season, but he really was improving. Then he tore his ACL. He's just been a good special teams player when he doesn't have penalties, but I remember, because I remember this, you distinctly saying this, because we talked about Sidney Brown, and you'll always say, hey, listen, we don't always, a team could think one thing, I see another, that's fine. But you said what everyone we talked to said. Tone setter, can hit, super high character guy, but really struggles in coverage. And that's been true to a degree at this level. And on your point, with all that Ben Johnson could do, this is the one issue I have coming to this game. Could Sidney Brown muster it up and not be a liability? Because we've talked about Jackson at corner being a liability. Could Brown not be a liability? That's it. I'm glad you brought this up, because this is a big concern coming to this game.
And the other question is, who's going to play outside corner opposite Mitchell? Will it be DeJean and they'll put Carter in the slot, or will they keep DeJean in the slot and play Bennett?
Well, Jackson's clear. Oh, okay. By the way, Jackson's clear. He's off the injury report. I thought I mentioned it. Yeah. Yeah, I mentioned it at the top. Yeah, here's what happened, Greg. So he had a head injury, right? He motioned that he was fine. That's what he was talking about when the camera showed him. But he was in the protocol. He's taken all the reps. He's cleared. He's actually off the injury. They don't do this a lot. He actually was removed from the injury report. But here's the question. He starts, but here's the question. How patient is Vic going to be? Because if the weather holds up with this pass target group, Greg, and I know it surprised you, they could not get very much pressure on Dak.
That was a big deal.
Yes. So if they don't get enough pressure and the conditions allow it, how long is Vic? If Jackson's struggling, you got to do what you got to do to win the game, and that's what people have to understand.
But I don't think they'd make a change unless it was really bad, because I'm not sure that Cooper DeJean can play effectively on the outside right now. And I think Jackson, barring injury, he's going to play out there. The big question, you raised it. I'm so glad you did.
I'm saying, how patient will he be if he struggles?
But I'm glad you raised this point about their pass rush, because against Dallas last week, their D-line, four-man D-line pass rush was not a big factor at all. I mean, Carter had some really dominant plays in the run game, but not in the pass game. Phillips did not have any really, big-time pass rushes. If they cannot rush the quarterback, and again, I'm not making a prediction here, Caleb will throw for this man. I don't do that. But if they can't get pressure on Caleb Williams, he's a comfortable player, they'll have some success in the pass game.
Greg, with his arm, as you talked about it, and Dak, once they were able to protect him, you saw as the game went along. I know the Eagles played well in the first half, but you saw Dallas, the Eagles. Now we know that Eagles had a number of injuries in the game. That's context matters, but we're going to see what happens. This is a fascinating matchup, man. I'm looking forward to it. I know it could be a problem because of the Eagles' issues at corner opposite Mitchell. And that seems to me like the call of every game. Can they hold up opposite Mitchell? And that's going to be fascinating. So, anything else you want to add before we get to our players of the game and score?
No, I think we covered it all, because otherwise we're just repeating. I mean, the fact is,
do that. Yep.
Somewhere along the line, you're going to have to be able to run the ball. I mean, that's if they can't do that, it just gets too hard.
All right, players of the game. We're going to start with you and the score. I can't imagine you're going to. There's no. We seem to think a lot at the same time. There's no way you're getting this. Go ahead.
This one is really hard, because the bottom line is, and I hate thinking about this when I do this and pick a game, but the reality is it's very hard to play at the link on the road. It's just hard. And it's just one of those things. I mean, I don't know the reason why, but it's hard.
Uh-huh.
So I just feel like that the Eagles won't turn it over this week. That was a little fluky last week. Um, I'm going to pick the Eagles, not with a ton of conviction, but I'm going to pick them 24-20. I think their defense will play better. I think their front will play better. And I think that's the key for their defense. And player of the game. Oh,
Mhm.
this is a really hard one. Because I was thinking about this.
Okay.
You know, I'm going to go with what maybe ideally was the start of something last week. I'm going to pick AJ Brown.
Oh, yeah, okay. All right. Okay. I didn't know you were going to say that. You know that everyone's asking, does he look the same? Has he lost a step? How did he look on tape last week? Might as well ask you.
He looked okay. I mean,
Looked like his
he
self.
finally caught some inbreakers, and yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, is it possible? First of all, he came in the league; he was never a burner,
Mhm.
so he's not a 4.35 guy. But
Yep.
they finally caught some inbreakers. In fact, Hurts had one of his best throws of the season on a 22-yarder on third down. It was beautiful. Couldn't do it any better than that. So yeah, I'm going to pick because don't forget their corner situation is not top notch either for the Bears.
No, but Nashawn Wright, our guy, 6'4", he bounces around. Good, nice story, by the way. He after what happened with him in Dallas
Yeah,
and with the Vikings. But all right, here we go. I've not picked against the Eagles this season, but I'm going to this game. It's just a gut feeling sometimes. I think I would have been right about Hurts last week if they didn't turn the ball. Well, it wasn't just the turnovers, but if the damn penalties
right.
in the second half ridiculous. Hurts played fine. Uh, I, I, I didn't know you were going to talk about Colston Loveland so lovingly as you did, but I've got Colston Loveland. I just have a feeling
Pick. It's a good pick.
yeah, with commit, and I know the conditions might not be good, and that this might not turn out to be great, but Cairo Santos, a game-winning field, the veteran kicker.
Ah,
Yep, yep, yep. I'm going for. Although Jake Elliott, boy, that's a tricky. Made a
what's
beautiful
your
kick.
score? You didn't give a score.
Oh yeah, thank you. 20-17. I'm Mr. Low Score, but
Yeah.
you make a good point. Eagles are one of the hardest teams to beat at home. Now it's a short week, a little bit of a shorter week. It's sometimes it's good to have that after you have a terrible loss like that. You come home, but I'm like you. I'm just missed. I'm almost stupefied at this offense because it looked like they were rolling. You know what happened in the second half?
Yep.
The turnovers, the penalties. It's just ridiculous. I mean, they actually had 15 penalties. One was offsetting. I just don't know. And they also had a bunch of special teams penalties, and they're better coached than this. But you've said it a lot you said it last year with Kellen Moore, and he's a good coordinator. You don't really know what you're getting from this Eagles offense from week to week. I literally have no idea, and they can't run the football at
Well,
all, Greg.
certainly not if they can't run it. Then you don't
No,
know.
it's tough. It's tough. All right. Good stuff, Greg. Nice and tight. I
Yeah.
think we covered just about everything.
Yeah,
There
we
he is,
did.
Mr. Greg Cosell. By the way, real quick, on the matchup show, what are you covering this week?
Let's see. We have because don't forget we can't do the Thanksgiving games or the
Yes.
Eagles game because we're a
Yes.
weekend show.
Yes.
So we lost a lot of really good matchups because of that. So we're doing Texans, Colts,
All right.
Vikings, Seahawks, Bills, Steelers, Broncos, Commanders, Giants, Patriots, which is Monday night, and
Yeah.
Rams, Panthers. And how about that Matthew Stafford with 30 touchdowns and two
Is
picks?
Can he finally be an MVP? I mean, he is. It's funny because I remember the knock on him, the lack of discipline, the off-platform stuff. When's he going to throw on time? Talk about a marriage and true West Coast offense with McVay. Holy, now he's got to be talked about in the Hall of Fame someday. He's a guy's phenomenal,
Without question.
phenomenal.
He's going to be in the top 10 in every category.
Yeah, yeah. He better be in the Hall of Fame someday. So,
Yeah.
all right, great stuff, Mr.
All
Cosell.
right.
I'm Adam Caplan. We'll see you next week.